Welcome back, everyone. I'm Lynn Doyle. This is It's Your Call, and we are tackling the topic of reinventing ourselves. You know, you may have heard this in conversation or maybe on the news, but it seems like it is the buzzword of 2010. So we're giving you some suggestions and some personal stories about people who have done this, the pros and the cons and the challenges and the obstacles. We want to know about you, though. What about it? Are you considering changing things up a little bit? Have you already done that out of choice or necessity? And what questions or advice might you have about reinventing yourselves? You know, we learn from you all. So if you want to tell us what's on your mind, a couple of different ways that you can do it. You can please email me right now at lynn@lynndoyle.net. You can also find us on Facebook, MySpace, and YouTube. And if you are on Facebook, be sure to friend us and join our It's Your Call group. And we've been talking to Leslie Goodell, who is a colleague of mine here at Comcast. For years, she has been a sports anchor and now is a reporter for Comcast Sportsnet. But she has reinvented herself along the way a couple of different times, and she's now an inventor and an entrepreneur and has a product called Nap Nanny that's taking off and doing very, very well. Have you got an idea like that? Is that something that you want to do? Well, maybe you need some advice. To give us that is Ford R. Myers. He's a career coach and president of Career Potentials, LLC. He is also the author of Get the Job You Want, Even When No One is Hiring. I love titles that catch my attention. Ford, it's great to have you with us.
Thanks, Lynn. I'm happy to be here.
So you heard me say that the new buzzword is reinvention. Is it usually out of choice, like Leslie, or is it out of necessity?
Well, it's really both. I mean, there are so many people who these days are affected by the economy, the job market, and are being forced out of their positions or being even forced out of their industries in some cases. But there are those people who have made proactive decisions and have really chosen to move forward into a new phase of their lives.
Are there pros and cons that are associated with both? Like if it's out of necessity, do you handle reinvention one way? And if it's out of choice, do you handle it another?
Well, the attitude of the client, in my case, because I work with people like this, the attitude of the client is very different when they're doing this by choice, when they have a lot of excitement or enthusiasm about the subject. But when people are forced out of their positions, it's obviously a very different situation, emotionally, personally, and professionally.
Okay, so let's talk about those two things individually. Let's start with necessity, because as you said, the economy has impacted so many different people. And Leslie is fortunate that she's done this because it's her career choice and her life choice. Sure. But if you have had an experience where you've lost your job, you've been forced into early retirement, or you hate your job and you want to do something else, what's the first thing you suggest to people?
I think the first thing to do is to really get a little bit introspective. Think about yourself. Who are you really? What works? It's almost like doing a personal inventory of your own skills, strengths, interests, passions, and get a plan together. Work with a coach or not. You can even do it perhaps on your own or with a friend, and try to develop a plan that you can use going forward. The worst thing to do is to just go about this in a haphazard, willy-nilly fashion.
Right.
Well, you really need to sit down and think it through and develop a plan.
So it's like anything, I was just going to say, it's like anything else, you need a plan.
Yes, but what's unfortunate is sometimes people will lose their job on a Thursday, and by Friday they've already sent out 500 resumes and don't even know what they're looking for. They're not really clear about their plan.
Do a lot of people use an opportunity when they've lost a job or they've changed their career? Do they use that opportunity to maybe pursue something they always wanted to do, or do they feel compelled to get right back into what they know, what's familiar, what's comfortable?
I've seen it both ways, Lynn, but I really think the intelligent person is going to take 10 steps back and really get analytical, look inside, talk to some people, get some support. But yes, there are some people who feel forced, sometimes by financial circumstances, where they really don't have much of a choice. They feel like they have to jump right back into what they were doing before. I think that's a missed opportunity sometimes. You
know, you used a word before, and Leslie and I were talking about it ourselves. You said passion. Find out what you have a passion for. And Leslie, you said your company would never be as successful as it is, even in its early stages, if you didn't have a passion for the product.
Yeah, I don't think, look, I've had a wonderful job for, a long time. I love doing what I've been doing. I happen to have found something else I love doing, and I know I'm fortunate in that. But I do talk to a lot of friends who, and I'm sure sees plenty of this, that had a career, had a job for a long time, but they didn't necessarily love what they were doing. They got out of college, they got an opportunity, they stayed in the company for a while, never really made the change. And I think as you get older, and particularly I found as I got into my 40s, I feel so much more comfortable comfortable making decisions about the things that make me truly happy as opposed to the financial aspect of it, because I think that comes with something you're passionate about.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's absolutely true. And I've seen people reinvent themselves and go into new fields, new industries, and they might have to start a little lower, but they quickly move up, they get back to where they were, and because they're so passionate, they can actually surpass the levels they were at before.
Mm-hmm. Now we talk about doing something out of necessity. What if, like our personal story here, you have the option to reinvent yourself by choice? Do you approach it differently?
Yes, I think you do, because again, there's a lot more energy and enthusiasm, so it's almost like you're unstoppable. A person who has an idea like Leslie's and a person who reinvents themselves by choice, they have a whole other energy about them. They gather resources, they do extensive research, they get support, they borrow money perhaps, or they do whatever's necessary. They're just unstoppable. You know, it's a whole other energy, and they're a lot of fun to work with people like this, because you just can't stop them. They're so energized and they're so enthusiastic.
It sure sounds like that's what happened to her, because I'll tell you what, after covering sports all day, working on the anchor desk until late at night, to come home and still have that passion to get on the computer and do the research that you need to develop a product, fight for the patent, you know, all of that. Boy, you have to really
just
want
even
that.
learning something, because any kind of time there's a new industry you're entering into, there's a huge learning curve. So a lot of your time is dedicated towards learning what you're talking about, so you can speak fluently about what you're getting in. And I think part of that is building a support staff around you, a support system of people who have been there, and then complement it with other people who are passionate about what you're doing, and you're finding the right groups. We've made a couple of mistakes along the way, but you have to. One thing that I think has been the biggest thing for me is I haven't been afraid to take a risk, and that is what I think stops people so often, is the fear of not being successful.
Are you not afraid to take the risk because you have the fallback position of the other career?
No, because I think I've made an actual step towards something else now, but I was cautious. I didn't anticipate the company doing what it's doing. I never saw, when I started it, leaving being a sportscaster. I saw that as something that complemented what I did as sort of a hobby.
Right.
And then it became something, and then it demanded more time, and it evolved. I took the risk more financially than I did anything, because I borrowed a significant amount of money and spent quite a bit of money.
Well, see, I'm really good at the spending the money. I'm not quite sure about the other part of it.
Yeah.
But when there's a risk involved for it, that's something that people really have to take into consideration, particularly if they're at a certain point in their lives. I mean, you don't want to put your house up if it doesn't work, and then you have no place to live and no new venture.
No, you're absolutely right. But you know, a lot of the professionals who I work with are experienced business people, professionals in all walks of industry, and they're smart. They know how to make a plan. They know how to get the resources and the help and the support they need, whether it's an accountant, whether it's a financial planner, an attorney, a career coach, could be a real estate professional, whatever is necessary. These are resourceful, intelligent people. And when it's time to make a major change in your life, they know how to build that support system around themselves that Leslie was talking about.
And Leslie mentioned the support system, not only if you are trying to reinvent yourself and create a new business opportunity, but you also mentioned how important it was that your husband was on board, even with your full-time career, your first choice of a career. How important is it to have not only your family, but a support group around you to encourage you and help you along?
Ford actually, in listening to Ford, and I was reading something recently that said, seek counsel, not advice. And everything that Ford was just talking about were professionals in the areas that they're good at. So if it's the lawyer, if it's the accountant, whatever it is, you need to seek out the people who know what they're talking about and can give you good counsel, not just the friend down the street who's going to give you advice.
And not just the counsel who's the lawyer, but the counsel who's been there, like the support group. Good advice. See, we told you that we would give you good advice if you're thinking about reinventing yourself or finding yourself in a situation where you must move on to something different. We're going to continue our conversation here, and we're going to take a look back at Leslie's career and talk about more of reinventing ourselves when It's Your Call continues. Stay with us.